Hi, this is Bill Hitchcock, and I thought I'd give you another option rather than typing in 50 states into a database. What you could do is find the information online and just try to do some copying and pasting and working through a few things. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. You just have to kind of try things out and decide how much time do you want to spend to save yourself some time. So it's kind of up to you, but I thought I'd show you how to do something like this. So what I did is I went out to Google, I typed in US state capitals, started looking for, a link of where I can find some information. And here's this simple Wikipedia link. So I'll click on that, and I've got a fairly decent list of a bunch of states and some information about them as far as it's got the year that they became a state, their capital city, when it's been a capital since, the area size of the capital, land mass, and so on. So they've got some data here. So I'm going to try to take this and copy it. So I'm just going to click and drag everything from the beginning of my list, and it includes the state capitals of the US, that title there. I'm trying to carefully drag this down. I don't want to include references at the bottom, but I've got all my data. So now I'll hit Control C to copy that. Pull up Excel, because that way once I'm in Excel, I can do some manipulation and kind of clean up the data a little bit. And that'll make it easier for us to get this into Access. So in Excel, I've got a blank workbook. I'm going to click on the drop down arrow for paste, and I want to match the destination formatting. So now that I've got that done, you can see, for the most part, everything's in columns, which works out pretty well, but it doesn't really work in terms of like field names and all the rest of it. So I want to do some, as I said, I want to do some cleaning up here. So let's take this, save this file, so that way if I make a mistake, I can always open it back up. So I'll just go out, I'll save this into some folder where I can find it again. And I'll just call this state info. I've got that done. No, I really don't need the title here. If you want to keep the title, up to you. I think it's just going to give us more headaches, so I'm going to get rid of that. So I'll delete that row, right click on it and delete it. Then here I want to put in field names. So I want these to match up to what I want to use in Access. So I'm going to use state name, the state ABBR or code or something like that. We'll do statehood. We'll do state capital, state cap YR for year. We've got the state cap size, land. We have the municipal population. So we've got the state cap muni. Next to it is the state capital, the metro in that area. So state cap metro. And if you want to call it metro pop, that would be fine. The ranking is the size of the capital city within all the cities in that state. So we've got the, why don't we call it the state city rank. And then finally off here we've got a comment about each of these. So we'll call it the state comment. Alright, I've got all that data done. Now, a couple things that would just make life a little bit easier. I'm going to hit Control Home. So I've got my field names in there, so I want to get rid of this first line here. Delete that out of there. I'm going to clean up the font size a little bit just to make this a bit smaller. So I'm going to highlight all my fields, hold my Shift key, select all that. Let's shrink this down to font size 9. that's not bad. Now, the state abbreviation is actually going to be my primary key, so I want to make that my leftmost column. So I'm going to right click on the letter A, insert a new column, take the state abbreviations, shift, end key, which turns on the end mode, down arrow, select all those, Control X to cut it, come over here, hit enter, paste that in. So now I've got my state abbreviation as the leftmost column, so my primary key column. I can delete this out of here. So I'll right click and delete that. Then for my numbers, I want to make sure that they don't have any sort of formatting on them, because we'll put that in Microsoft Access. So I'm going to highlight all those numbers, change the format to general to get rid of any formatting, and we can clean some of that up. So far looks pretty good. What I want to do is I want to adjust the column widths on all these just to make that a little bit easier to read. I don't want to include the state comment because that one's really wide, so we'll manually adjust that one. But let's try to auto width these. For state comment, if you want to make that a little bit wider just to make that easier to read, that's fine, but we don't need to get too big. So Control Home, looks good. I'm going to save this, scroll through one more time, just kind of double check everything, looks pretty good. And let's close up. Actually, we can rename this Sheet tab. Let's call this the State Caps, just so we know what the information's about. Save this file, close it. Right, now I jump over to Access, and in this case it's probably just as easy to start over with a brand new database rather than trying to work on that one that we had. And I realize you already had some zip codes in and some of the rest of it stuff. You know what, we can redo that and it won't take us very long. So I'm going to go to external data. Actually, what I want to do first is I'm going to go File, I want to create a blank desktop database. And we'll do the same thing that we did before. Choose where you want to save this. I'll call this my contact database. Call it something different if you already had a database with that name. And it tries to create a table. I'm going to close this up. I don't really want that table there. But what I do want to do is I want to go to external data and pull this in from Excel. So in my external data, it says I can either import the source data into a new table, since I don't have any other ones, or I can link it. I want to import this. So I'm going to choose Browse and look for where I stored my information. So if it's on your C drive, if it's on your Google Drive, your OneDrive, whatever, find that. Here it is, here's state info. So I'll click open there and hit OK. And it says the first row contains some data that can't be valid for access in some case. Alright, we're going to try that. Let's hit OK. And we've got state abbreviation. I've got the first row contains the column headings. That looks alright. Let's just see what it's not liking. Looks like for some reason it got messed up on the state, metro, and city rankings. So we'll try it again once. And if we don't get that information, then we'll just run with it and see what happens. So we'll choose next and finish. And I don't need to save the import steps. Hit close. And let's try this out. Here's my state capitals. And actually it's going to be my state data. I've got an ID number. So I don't really want the ID number on there. We'll kind of clean that up. But otherwise, looking out here, it looks like most of our data looks pretty good. So it seems as though it imported all that. So let's clean up our table bit and we'll be all set. Go to Home, change the view to Design View. I'm going to turn off the primary key for this field. I want to make the primary key my state abbreviation. My state abbreviation, it guessed that it was 255 characters. I just need 2 characters. I'm going to give it a caption of state. State name, same thing. We probably only need about 25 characters. The caption can be state name. For the statehood, we can decide what we want to use for a caption. So maybe say something like the year cap established. And the formatting, I think that'll be alright, just leaving the way it is there. State capital, I think the capital city name, 25 characters is probably plenty. State capital. Actually, statehood, this was not the year the capital was, this was the year the state was established, so we'll just call it that one, state. Statehood. This one, here we go. Here's the year that the capital was established. So, year cap established. The land area, that's our capital land, and maybe we can say it's in square miles. Now for this one, for the formatting, I'm going to want to use a standard format, so that way I'll get commas in there. And for the decimal places, I want it to always be something fixed. So 1 would probably work out alright. For the municipal, I just have a hard time saying that word, municipal population, we'll say cap muni pop. And again, let's format that. A standard format would work well. Decimal places, we want to set that to 0. Do the metro pop. You can decide if you want the periods in there or don't want the periods in there. But I would certainly format the numbers so they look a little cleaner. City rank, we can just put city rank should be clear enough. And then finally we've got the comment. Now really that comment would have been nicer if we could have got that imported as a memo field, because it's a little bit longer. It probably chopped everything off to 255 characters, but that'll be alright. And then finally we've got this field 11. Let's just delete that one. Alright, we're pretty good, I think. So let's change the view back to data sheet view. Some data is going to be lost. We'll think we're alright. We've got index or primary can't contain a null value. So it got rid of this. Alright, we got some errors. And let's turn the primary key off of here, and let's see if we can at least view the data. Alright, and see what's causing us the problem here. For some reason we've got 65 records that it tried to import. So it pulled in a bunch of extra data here. So let's take those records, highlight them, hit delete, get rid of those 15 records. So that cleaned that up. The rest of it looks pretty good. Here's my state code, state names, the year it was established as a state. We've got my state capital. We can adjust some of these columns here. I'm probably not going to do it with the comment field again for the same reason. I don't want to make that a real wide field. But that looks pretty good. So let's close this up first. Try going into that table one more time in design view. Let's try to delete this ID number because we really don't need that one. Let's try changing the view. See if we have any problems with it. And finally, let's see if we can establish this as our primary key. And it lets me do it because we deleted off those extra records. So, I realize this took us 10-15 minutes to import all that data, but it does give us a lot of information that we can use that would be helpful to have, and that way we didn't have to type in all of this and risk having some errors and so on. So you can decide if you want to give something like that a try. It's all good practice. It's all good things to learn how to kind of manipulate and finds out if you really can get things to work or not. So I thought I'd put that one out there, and we can kind of do a few other things with this database to show you some forms and queries and reports, and do that later. So good luck, and hopefully you'll get some state information entered in.